terms of horror, I would still consider it underrated is the first Bhoot. I think it's one of my favorite Indian horror films because it got so much right in terms of atmospheric horror. It's based out of this one apartment and the creepy things that happen in that apartment. And the way it captured the apartment itself, it almost looked like a creature. If you want to understand what cosmopolitan city horror in India has looked like, it comes really close to that.
If you actually think about it, cosmopolitan urban horror is a subject that hasn't been explored even
As much, yeah.
in international cinema.
But always the countryside, always the period.
Like there has to be some mythology attached to it or some kind of mysticism attached to it.
There's so much that Tumbbad has to offer in terms of craft. Kind of body horror that Tumbbad focuses on, which is something that is so missing in Hindi cinema especially.
100%.
Completely reinvented marriage of body horror into mythology.
Every time you would talk about underrated Indian films, से कम 50 लोग होंगे जो कि बोलेंगे Tumbbad. So a lot of people have seen it, but they still want more people to see it. So yeah, underrated Hindi films. Tell me.
Let's go. Yeah. You start first.
We were just talking about Black Friday. So Black Friday is definitely an extremely underrated Hindi film.
One of Kashyap's best also. Definitely a film that a lot of us saw and wanted to see more of. But somehow that never really happened.
But should we also like maybe clarify just the fact, the usage of the word underrated?
Yeah.
What do you think about that word?
It's very relative. It's very relative because I feel like a lot of the films that we consider to be not underrated are actually very underrated. For example,
I agree with you.
Yeah, I was going through the comment section and a lot of people in the comment section have told us that Tumbbad is a really underrated film.
Yeah.
Which I don't think it is because so many people have discussed the films. There are so many scholarly papers about the film. So much has been written about the film and rightly so. So I don't think it's underrated anymore. But at the same time, I know for a fact कि बहुत कम लोगों ने देखी है.
मेरा underrated वाली चीज़ के बारे में ये भी एक opinion है कि I personally feel like a lot of times people start arguing about the fact कि भाई ये वाली film underrated नहीं है. Obviously कुछ फिल्मों के बारे में objectively बोला जा सकता है, जैसे कि तमाशा के बारे में बोला जा सकता है कि भाई वो underrated वाली चीज़ खत्म हो गई. लेकिन ना उसमें एक और चीज़ है, मतलब ये वाली चीज़ ना मेरे को लगता है कहीं ना इट्स कमिंग फ्रॉम अ प्लेस ऑफ प्रिविलेज. प्रिविलेज बोल लो या फिर इग्नोरेंस बोल लो या फिर कुछ भी बोल लो, लेकिन मेरे हिसाब से प्रिविलेज ये है यहाँ पे कि हम लोग सोच रहे हैं कि हमारे लिए एक छोटा सा बबल है ऑफ दिस बबल इन टर्म्स ऑफ द सोशल, चाहे वो क्लास वाला बबल बोल लो, चाहे वो सोशल मीडिया वाला बबल बोल लो, जो भी बोल लो, पर ना वो एक बबल है. हम लोगों को लग रहा है कि हम लोग जो 1000, 2000, 5000 लोगों को ऑनलाइन जानते हैं जिन्होंने तमाशा देख ली और जो तमाशा के बारे में हज़ारों पोस्ट बनाते हैं, तो हम लोग अज्यूम कर लेते हैं कि सब लोगों ने देख ली वो, जबकि तुम अभी भी एक मतलब देयर यू विल स्टिल फाइंड सो मेनी पीपल हु वुड नो रणबीर कपूर फ्रॉम लेट्स से 2-3 of his most popular films such as ये जवानी है दीवानी and all of those. Even for them, Tamasha would... I'll give an example. When Tamasha had come out, when Tamasha had released, I'm talking about then, I had loved the film from its first viewing itself.
Same.
I'd seen it at the theatre.
Yeah.
So, but I came from watching the film and I उस दिन की बात है, मैं फिल्म देख के घर वापस आया और मेरे घर पे एक शायद कोई एक्वागार्ड ठीक करने वाले वो आए थे, इंजीनियर आए थे, एंड ही वाज देयर एंड आई वाज रिकमेंडिंग द फिल्म टू माय सिस्टर. ठीक है, मैं अपनी बहन को बोल रहा था कि यार विदुषी यू नो यू नीड टू गो एंड वॉच तमाशा, इट्स सच अ गुड फिल्म, आई रियली लाइक्ड इट. मैं सुबह ही देख के आया था.
हाँ. और
इंजीनियर जो था वो ना वो डॉक्यूमेंट्स वगैरह निकाल रहा था साइन वाइन करवाने के लिए. निकालते एकदम से बोलता है कि कौन सी पिक्चर देख के आए आप? मैंने कहा तमाशा. मेरी बहन को बोलता है ज़िंदगी मत देख लेना, ये भूल मत कर देना बिल्कुल भी, आपके पैसे ख़राब हो जाएंगे. ठीक है. और उसके बाद फिर हमने बोला अच्छा ठीक है, मतलब व्हाटएवर, ठीक है, स्टार्ट लाफिंग. फिर बोलता है लेकिन एक और पिक्चर लगी हुई भाई थिएटर में, वो जरूर देख के आना, हिट स्टोरी 3, वो है फिल्म. ऐसे लगे वो होती है फिल्म, वो होती है पिक्चर.
राइट.
So all I'm saying is that that guy's worldview.
Yeah.
See, one, of course it can't be said कि भाई मतलब तमाशा, ये किसी भी फिल्म के बारे में नहीं बोल सकते भाई ऑब्जेक्टिवली.
नहीं वो तो बोल ही नहीं सकते, पर तमाशा के बारे में ये भी दैट अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल हु रिलेटेड टू इट वर पीपल हु आर गोइंग थ्रू एग्जैक्टली दैट क्राइसिस.
Yeah, see, that is obviously there. There is always the personal aspect.
Yeah.
What we like.
Yeah, and the first group.
But then the craft, then there is the craft of the film, or there is the writing and all of those things.
Yeah.
So with respect to that, क्या हम उसको ध्यान में रख के बोल सकते हैं फिल्म के बारे में कि ये एक ऑब्जेक्टिवली अच्छी फिल्म है? क्या हम किसी भी फिल्म के बारे में ऐसा बोल सकते हैं? That is also a question.
That is also a question, yeah.
And I really do not know the answer to that.
Yeah, even I don't know the answer to that. Because I know for a fact that a lot of the films that I've been shown, say, when I was studying films and everything, initially, of course, I did not really get what they were about. Right? Because you don't get what Haneke is about at the first watch.
Right.
You don't get that. But eventually what happens is that when you see it multiple times, you start seeing the filmmaking nuances of it. That certain shots are framed a certain way. Certain character arcs are written a certain way. And there's a lot of context.
Yeah.
So the thing that you're talking about, we only get to notice that, I feel personally, is when you're watching the same film again and again.
Yeah.
बहुत कम cases मेरे साथ ऐसे हुआ है कि मैंने पहले film देख के I have just realized कि yeah, what wonderful craft.
Yeah.
Maybe if I actually start making films at some point, I'd realize that or recognize that even faster. But not at the moment.
Yeah.
So craft is almost like that. But in terms of story, or in terms of the kind of crisis that Tamasha was showing, for example, the story you identify at the first watch, which is what happened with you, which is what happened with me. You know, that you identify that this is a great story the first time you're seeing the film.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Tamasha was definitely one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, you know, with time people just spoke about it so much on the internet.
Yeah.
I think just the people on the internet now, in their one bubble,
Yeah.
they have just been overloaded with a lot of Tamasha content.
Yeah.
Which is why they have
I feel
just
like it's
gotten...
not underrated anymore, but it could be considered underwatched. Because I have people in my own circle who have not seen the film.
Yeah, 100%.
Underrated, मतलब if you...
मैं वही तो बोल रहा हूँ, हम लोग क्या लगता है ना, हम लोग जो यू नो मतलब चाहे वो हिंदू सिनेमा की 2.5 लाख लोगों की कम्युनिटी हो,
हाँ,
उसके अंदर भी बहुत सारे लोग होंगे यार. अभी तक हम लोग अभी भी कभी जब तमाशा को फीचर करते हैं तो अभी भी कमेंट्स आते हैं, मतलब यू नो तमाशा अंडररेटेड फिल्म.
Yeah.
So that stuff is still there.
Yeah. And also with Tamasha, I think the initial reaction that happened to the film, the fact that it did not get the recognition that so many of us think that it clearly deserved, is also what a lot of people took very personally. कि ये film कैसे नहीं चली?
Yeah.
You know, you see those comments कि हाँ, you would see these bad films succeeding in Bollywood when a Tamasha does not succeed.
Yeah.
And it's like a personal, it's like a personal angst. But I tell you, something very similar happened to me. Also a Bollywood film, Pari. I found the film to be really scary. At least I did not think that the way the plot was resolved at the end really lived up to the complexity of the rest of the film. But the beginning of the film really freaked me out. Okay? And I was discussing it with a friend of mine on an auto on my way to college. And the auto driver just violently goes, "ये कैसी film है?"
अच्छा वो देख क्या?
हाँ वो देख के आया था, कितनी वाहियात फिल्म है. And he was a Muslim man, so I think he knew about the kind of mythology that Pari was referring to as well.
हाँ.
And he had taken that also very personally.
अच्छा.
कि पूरा misrepresent कर दिया है, पूरा misinterpret कर दिया है. And I realized that I had seen the film in a very different light.
Correct.
So that also is one of the definitely one of those very strange experiences.
Pari was a very interesting film. Okay, underrated Hindi horror films, if there are any. I mean, Tumbbad obviously gets a Tumbbad का नाम बार-बार लिया जाता है, पर
recognition in the scholarly circles. I still think not enough people have seen it outside of the community.
But Tumbbad is definitely such a great example of
great example of a very Indianized version of body horror.
Not just that, but also just the fact that every time you would talk about like underrated Indian films or Hindi, मतलब कम से कम 50 लोग होंगे जो कि बोलेंगे Tumbbad. So a lot of people have seen it, but they still want more people to see it.
Yeah.
Tumbbad has that kind of. Tumbbad के बारे में मेरे को लगता है कि कभी भी वो वाला डिबेट आएगा कि भाई बस अब Tumbbad underrated नहीं रही, बस बंद कर दो अब. क्योंकि in terms of, because people are just so passionate about
the film. Yeah.
And maybe also just the fact that, you know, there were no big stars, no big director. And just, it almost feels like this passion project started by some outsiders, and people really want to support that.
And also in Tumbbad, in terms of filmmaking, we were just discussing craft. There's so much that Tumbbad has to offer in terms of craft.
Yeah.
There's so much, because I was just telling you the kind of body horror that Tumbbad focuses on, which is something that is so missing in Hindi cinema especially.
100%.
It completely reinvented the marriage of body horror into mythology, into, you know, all of those things, and it made its own worldview seem extremely logical.
Yeah. Yeah, Indian cinema's definition of body horror, I think, until that point were the Ramsey brother films.
Yeah,
और उनके
Ramsey
अंदर,
brother films.
उनके अंदर,
So yeah,
the like a human being suddenly getting converted into a very a man in a basically a man in a suit, but passing it off as a creature.
Yeah, it's just
But
it was
it was fun to watch at that time. Honestly, I used to get scared by some of those films.
Yeah, very Frankensteinian, almost primitive. Yeah, monster oriented.
हाँ, मतलब उनकी जो उनका जो तरीका भी था, मतलब the way that they were doing. I mean, मतलब of course, मतलब they were not good films, but but they were scary, man.
Paved the way for other films to, just change a little bit about those and then build up from there.
Yeah.
That they definitely did. In terms of, I think horror, I would still consider it underrated, is the first Bhoot.
The first Bhoot.
Yeah. It really got me. I was just telling Samraj about it the other day, that I think it's definitely one of my favorite Indian horror films. Because it got so much right in terms of atmospheric horror. The whole, because it's based out of this one apartment and the creepy things that happen in that apartment, and the way it captured the apartment itself, it almost looked like a creature.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, which is why also again I think the point where a lot of the horror films do mess up a little is the resolution.
Yeah.
Bhoot, I feel like had the same issue a little bit. But yeah, apart from that, I think Bhoot is a if you want to understand what cosmopolitan city horror in India has looked like, Bhoot is definitely really, it comes really close to that.
Yeah, if you actually think about it, cosmopolitan urban horror is a subject that hasn't been explored even
as much,
even in international cinema.
Yeah, it needs to be.
मतलब हमेशा
not as much as it deserves to be. It's always the countryside.
Always like a period film.
Always a period
like
film.
There has to be some mythology attached to it or some kind of mysticism attached to it. In fact, the urban horror films from abroad also that have even made like a mark on the international map are films like Ringu, or this Shutter, right? Shutter we were
Shutter we were talking about. Even the Ari Aster films, for that matter.
Ari Aster always.
Of course, a genre itself.
But wait, उनमें भी mythicism and mythology is
बहुत ज़्यादा, but also again really contrasted with modernism.
Get Out may be the only one great
breakout. The breakout horror film, which was extremely sharp and unabashed with the commentary that it was making. And it was really proud of the, identity that it had, which is such a great. And it's so funny because when you start seeing the film, and there's that one beautiful, I love that moment where the father-in-law, the would-be father-in-law, is showing this man around the house. And he does this thing where he says that I've taken this from this culture and I've taken this from that culture, and see how, varied the thing in my house is. And this guy just does okay. There's that slight moment of where he can categorize this guy as the white man.
100%. And he's also kind of introducing him to the the house helps and
and he can read the man completely, and you see it in his face, and it's such a brilliant moment in terms of acting as well. It's one of the subtlest moments where he does this. Okay, cool, I get it. And it's Get Out is definitely one of my favorites. One of my favorites. When we were going to talk about
but again, Ram Gopal Verma. Another great. I mean, I know that you don't love this film as much, but Kaun, also horror, but in a very different way. It's more psychological horror. But I personally feel that, the way that film made me feel, more so than Bhoot in my case.
Right.
I mean, it was a film that really scared me because of how close to reality it felt, because there wasn't a supernatural element in it. It was just the horror was being derived from real. And I mean just how that film took me in the middle of this very real conflict of something that could actually happen with people, and to then give that twist in the story. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, in a way that it was also a very, I feel like it was one of those films back then that had such a strong female character as well.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Flawed female character, a great noir character.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
But I think my own perspective towards Kaun is a little skewed because I feel like I have seen it at that point in my life where I'd read other things about, psychiatric issues or psychological issues. And then to look at the film is to then just, be able to locate its problems in the way that it portrayed certain things.
Makes sense.
Maybe if I had seen it when I was younger, it would have had a very different impact on me.
Maybe.
Yeah. But we were discussing other underrated Hindi films in different genres. What else?
Horror में और कोई है? मतलब for you, Pari is one.
Pari is one, yeah.
Yeah.
Although the end was a little.
पर और कोई और?
I'm going to really admit this, but the first time I saw Kal as a child,
Kal's Kid.
I did not enjoy that experience because it got to. I hated the way that film affected me. And then the first time I actually visited Corbett, it was not fun. It was not fun at all. But yeah, also Samraj has reminded us, Bulbul.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Bulbul and what was the new film? Was that no? Kala wasn't a horror film, but yeah.
Very differently. Yeah, maybe.
Ek Thi Dayan.
Oh, Ek Thi Dayan.
Ek Thi Dayan, very interesting film.
First half of the film, though, honestly, scary, very well done with the mythology.
And great establishment.
Great sound effect.
Yeah, and also it wasn't doing a lot of exposition. Also, like it was keeping things really concealed in the right way.
Yeah.
And really kind of establishing the atmosphere of the film very
so
well.
And using that lift.
Establishing the suspense. It was really making you curious about.
And I remember that one point when I was watching this, I watched that film in the theater, which was not a good decision considering I don't handle horror well.
Yeah.
Although I love to watch it. Is that one scene where Ahona Chanda is just passing, and there's this old man in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Who just looks at her and says, "Arey, tu to mar gayi thi na kuch saal pehle."
Yeah.
That scene just, I don't know, it felt like a gut punch. Because obviously you were aware at that point that something is wrong with this character, but you're not made aware of it to that extent.
Yeah.
So it really, okay, yeah, that was creepy.
Yeah.
Also, now that I'm looking at this, Darna Mana Hai,
Yeah.
great anthology.
But you know what? That's the thing with these films, right? Like Darna Mana Hai and all of these films, I think they did really well for their time, right?
Yeah, they did. But they sadly had a very underrated afterlife.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Underrated afterlife.
Yeah, they not. They did not enjoy the kind of fame that because the concept of the anthology, the concept of stories being told in cinema, that whole meta-cinematic nature of it, and that extremely creepy story with Shilpa Shetty and the apple.
Oh yes.
Which
and Rajpal Yadav.
Yadav in that role, right? Nobody then really
absolutely
cast him in again.
Terrifying.
It was brilliant.
It was terrifying.
It was terrifying. Yeah, it was terrifying. Truly terrifying.
Yeah. Okay, let's move from horror. And I'm sure there are like a lot more. I mean, of course, the older ones, of course, all the Manoj Kumar films.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
वो कौन थी?
Mahal. वो कौन थी? These are also, these established what Indian horror could look like.
Basically.
Really just completely understood. And also really establishing the haunted mansion.
Yeah.
Not the Victorian Gothic mansion, an Indian haunted mansion. That I think is, really the legacy of these films.
Yeah. Okay, moving on from horror. Do we have any underrated romantic films that we like?
Romantic films.
I mean,
very recently, Sir, wonderful film. Wonderful film, truly underrated, and very controlled with its approach towards romance. Not going in completely, but really committing to the delicate nature of it, which I really enjoyed about that film. Yeah, definitely one of the. Yeah.
मतलब पर वही मतलब सर का भी वही हुआ कि again like it was such a small film and but I mean for somehow it found its audience when it released on Netflix. पर वो फिल्म अटकी हुई थी यार कुछ में 2-3 साल बाद रिलीज नहीं हो रही थी वो फिल्म 2-3 साल बाद वो फिर रिलीज हुई नेटफ्लिक्स पे so many people saw it and
Lunchbox is not underrated anymore but a lot of people haven't watched it. That's also
पता है ये इन सब फिल्मों का है मतलब for that matter even a film like Masan
you're right.
Lunchbox,
you're right.
A lot of people still haven't seen these films.
And as I mean,
wait, but okay, if we're talking about like pure romance, because even Masan, Lunchbox, there are other aspects to these films that are also important. But pure romance, अगर और like are there more pure romance films? So if we probably go back in time a little bit, maybe the Basu Chatterjee films.
Yeah.
Which again, the Basu Chatterjee films, and I think
There was one particular point in Indian cinema where not only romance but the ensuing heartbreak was also captured with such beauty. You know, basically the era that you're talking about, the whole, you know.
Oh yes.
It was just one of the most beautiful moments in cinema, and then it did not somehow get.
Yeah.
I mean, it did not find takers, I guess, which is why it did not get.
What kind of films are you referring to?
The whole Basu Chatterjee, you know, that particular era in cinema, and somehow it just did not. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Choti Si Baat, Rajnigandha.
Yeah.
I mean, both extremely beautiful films. Watching Basu Chatterjee films or watching Sai Paranjabi films, to me, watching their films feels like going back in time and actually reliving how these cities must have been in those particular.
In Sai Paranjabi's films, you can actually see the transformation happening. From that, you know, modernity, modernity, post-modernity. Yeah. What an amazing.
दिल्ली की गलियों के अंदर बिल्कुल प्योर, you know, यूनिवर्सिटी वाले एरिया के अंदर हम लोगों ने शूट करी, या जहाँ भी शूट किया, but it looks so real. It feels so real, you know. And I love Chashme Baddoor for that reason, and even Katha for that reason.
Yeah.
And बासु चैटर्जी की फिल्मों में रजनीगंधा में उन्होंने दिल्ली को भी इतने अच्छे से शूट किया, बॉम्बे वाले सीन्स भी इतने शानदार तरीके से शूट हुए हैं. And again, like छोटी सी बात के अंदर जिस तरीके से बॉम्बे को शूट किया, Bandstand, and again, like, you know, these scenes have become so iconic. Like Bandstand, when I think of Bandstand now, every time I go to Bandstand, I first think of
that particular scene.
Baat.
Yeah, really. At that point of time, I think also in more recent, comparatively recent examples, Socha Na Tha, also criminally underwatched.
Yeah.
Criminally underwatched. True. More people should see that film.
Yeah. Socha Na Tha is a good romantic film.
Yeah,
and
it's a good romantic
has the Imtiaz Ali template in some ways, but still it is very different from the...
Yeah, very free from what he was then interpreted as.
Yeah.
मतलब
वही है ना, हाँ, क्योंकि because I think if we have to look at the Imtiaz Ali template, I think वो सबसे ज़्यादा, like, it was at its peak in maybe Rockstar, or, you know, where he just completely went, like, the woman almost became a plot device more than anything. In Rockstar, right? Rockstar.
Yeah.
It's a great film, but...
I mean, listen, I personally think that Rockstar is an adaptation. I mean, maybe even unintentional. Of the whole Orpheus myth.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
You understand how, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I feel like very unintentionally he created the story that very well fits into the... But yeah. Also, this is listing, now that we are looking up underrated Hindi romantic films, it's also listing Ek Mein Aur Ek Tu.
Yeah.
Which I guess was a really...
even now, I feel like, again, like not a lot of people have seen.
No, not a lot of people have seen it.
Yeah. Ek Mein Aur Ek Tu, again, another great thing about the film, urban romance.
Yeah.
You know? Just realistic, maybe not realistic, like it was, obviously it had a lot of Bollywood elements to it, but still, you know, it was rooted in some amount of realism in terms of the conflicts of the characters were real. You know, of course, I'm all for like semi-urban or small town films, or, you know,
of course
for those things,
but of course,
I would really like to see
that it held on to this particular film, where two people do not think about each other in the same direction, but they think about each other. That particular area of romance, I don't think has been explored enough. This is also listing Zubeda as an underrated Bollywood romantic film. I don't think it's a romantic film.
It's not a romantic.
Yeah, I don't think it's a romantic film at all.
But Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na.
Oh yes.
Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na.
Oh yes. What a You're all time. It's one of your favorites.
It's maybe, I mean, yesterday only a friend of mine was asking me कि तेरी favorite शाहरुख खान film कौन सी है? He was saying कि उसकी favorite है Yes Boss.
अच्छा, okay. तो minus Swades. How cliched. But Swades.
तो मैंने वही सोचा, मैंने कहा यार ऑनेस्टली अगर मैं बताऊँ ना कि कौन सी शाहरुख खान फिल्म का मेरे ऊपर, कि मतलब मैंने कौन सी सबसे ज़्यादा देखी है ना, मैं ऑनेस्टली बताऊंगा तो इट विल बी समथिंग लाइक वीर ज़ारा और कुछ होता है. ऑनेस्टली दोज आर द फिल्म्स.
वीर ज़ारा द मोस्ट नंबर ऑफ टाइम.
मी टू. सो मतलब पर जो एक मेरे को ह्यूमन सिनेमा वाला आंसर देना है, दैट वुड प्रोबब्ली बी कभी हाँ कभी ना. बट ऑल्सो आई लव द फिल्म It's just that I discovered it much later. That's the thing. But I discovered it at the right
Even
time.
I saw it much later.
Yeah.
I've seen all his other work. I think I saw it after Rais or something, which is fairly late. Yeah.
Even I would have, I'm sure that I also discovered it because I remember I saw it in college.
Right.
But it was the right time for me to watch that film
because it's one of those things that a film finds you.
Yeah, it's such a mature film, right?
Yeah.
Such a mature depiction of
I think he was also saying in one of his interviews that he thinks that Sunil is one of the most complete characters.
Yeah.
Because he can let go.
Yeah.
That he does not need any romantic advice. Yeah, so I think they were interviewing for Dear Zindagi. And one news anchor asked him, what advice would you give to Sunil from Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na? And he said that he needs... it was a great question. And he immediately said that I don't think he needs any advice. He's a very complete person. Which means... And I love that he's so aware.
That's the arc of the character, na? His journey from being this lost, incomplete person to becoming complete by really realizing what acceptance and letting go means.
Yeah.
And he has often said this, that Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na is his favorite film from his filmography. And he considers Kundan Shah to be his favorite
director,
collaborator of all time.
Right. Okay.
And it's so unfortunate that Kundan Shah passed away so early, but really would have loved to see him make films in this, like in the current era, because see the thing with the other filmmakers from that era, Shyam Benegal, Govind Nihalani, they made great films, but they were only making a certain type of films.
Yeah.
Kundan Shah was so versatile. He was making a Jaane Pe Do Yaro also. He was making a Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na also. And then he later made that film with Preeti Zinta and Jimmy Shergill, Dil Hai Tumhara.
Okay.
That's a Kundan Shah film.
Okay.
Dil Hai Tumhara with Arjun Rampal. So maybe not Kundan Shah's best film, but
you're saying that he's juggled a lot of genres.
And I still like the fact that he was somebody who was trying to explore such interesting varied subjects.
Yeah. True.
Lootera, again, great romantic film, my favorite.
Yeah, now it's become more of an aesthetic, I feel like. Not enough people think about Lootera for its plot. Now, a lot of people, when you see content on Lootera on Instagram, people are almost a lot of those reels just say, what a beautiful film, because just depending on the way it looked. But it had a lot to say through the way it looked.
Yeah.
Which I think is often, I'm sure there are people who, obviously appreciate it for other reasons. But that is something that I've now seen happening a lot, which is sad because Lootera has so much more to offer.
Of course,
One of the best albums.
One of the best albums and
Hindi cinema.
One of the most well shot films.
Exceptionally well shot. Very true to its period.
The use of music is so good, appropriate.
Yeah.
It does not use the songs unnecessarily anywhere. And there is song after song, like in the second half. Gana khatam hua, dusra gana shuru. It still works so well.
So well. The song's so relevant to the plot.
Yeah.
So sharp in its understanding of how tragedy and romance can overlap.
Yeah.
Those, definitely.
It mentions Qarib Singlle, which also is a great...
definitely.
Underrated romantic film.
Yeah.
This is definitely a film that is still underrated. This is definitely a film that...
I've never seen enough discussion on it.
Yeah, even we haven't spoken about it a lot on the page. And every time we do like a post on like underrated films or, more films that more people need to watch. And I see like one comment about Qarib Singlle. I realize, fuck man, we do need to talk about this because... It's such a beautiful film. And great performances by Irfan and Parvati.
Yeah.
And by the other actors as well. The ones with supporting parts. And just such well-written characters, both of them. And they're dynamic with each other. They're so polar opposites. Polar opposites of them. Still, both of these characters working together. It's such an interesting dynamic to see. But beautiful film. Beautiful film, great songs.
Great songs again.
वो जो था ख्वाब था
जाने दे.
वो जो था ख्वाब है
जाने दे. Yes.
तो हम लोगों ने सिर्फ रोमांस और हॉरर किया.
Romance or horror. Polar opposites. Yes. They are also attracting. Horror, romance. Bhediya.
But actually, it's interesting.
We see straight from horror to romance.
No,
it often goes the other way. Romance to
नहीं कि हम लोगों ने हॉरर में हम लोगों ने स्त्री भेड़िया वगैरह की बात नहीं करी.
क्योंकि underrated नहीं.
अंडररेटेड नहीं है, पर भेड़िया फिर
Bhediya, मुझे honestly I feel like not a lot of the viewers really understood just how challenging the film was to existing structures of
Yeah.
filmmaking.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, no, I mean, I'm sure other people have understood. Maybe I have not spoken to those people. But a lot of people really liked it for the visual effects and the songs and, because of how different it was as a concept. But I feel like the way it carried that concept forward was truly, it was truly something.
Yeah.
I'd love to know how Amal Kaushik came to that concept.
भेड़िया का ना ये भी बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ है कि भेड़िया is in a way a horror romance.
Yeah, it's a horror
Even though
romance.
the
It's an environmental
Romance,
drama.
the romance aspect of it wasn't that prominent, but
No, the romance in the film was very different. I feel like the main romance was between Varun Dhawan and the guy that he was playing and Bhediya. You understand? Like it was a romance between those alter egos.
Yeah.
Where they basically differ and then they come to this one point of conjunction.
Yeah.
Where, he completely... I feel like there was a romance of two personalities more than romance of two characters.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, let's do some other genres quickly. All of Anurag Kashyap's earlier work.
Yeah.
Ugly, Black Friday.
Anurag Kashyap, Dibakar Banerjee, I still feel like Love, Sex or Dhokha, for all the popularity that Love, Sex or Dhokha got when released. I still feel like people haven't seen Love, Sex or Dhokha, yaar. Matlab, it's such a...
Also, you were telling me that a lot of people would know about Khosla Ka Ghosla. I know a lot of people who haven't seen the film. And they should see the film.
But that's what
One of the best.
कि मेरे को लगता है कि दिल्ली में खोसला खोसला सबने देखी थी. मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि दिल्ली, it was such a Delhi film. It was made tax free in Delhi, Samraj is saying. So yeah, मतलब because यार मतलब अभी मैं बात करता हूँ मेरे वो दोस्त जो बिल्कुल फिल्में नहीं देखते कुछ नहीं, उन सब ने खोसला खोसला देखी हुई है. It captured Delhi so well.
Funny. It was so funny.
Yeah.
Khosla Ka Ghosla and also Taxi Number 911.
Yeah.
Again, not enough people have seen Taxi Number 911.
Yeah, Taxi Number 911. Acha, if we have to just quickly list some films that we think are underrated. Manorama 6 Feet Under.
Extremely underrated. If you haven't watched Manorama 6 Feet Under, please watch.
Another Abhay Deol film, Road Movie by Dev Benegal.
Okay.
I told you about this film.
Yes.
Fantastic film. Dev Benegal, such an amazing filmmaker.
Right.
Who, either his films got lost. He made this film called English August.
Oh, yes. It was Rahul Bose, yeah.
And that film never really saw the light of the day. But it did so well in the film festivals, etc. I think Dev Benegal was related to Shyam Benegal.
Okay.
In Maqbool, still is...
Maqbool, we were talking about
Gulal.
The other day.
Gulal, Black Friday, of course.
Black Friday, yeah. Ugly, we have spoken about on the page. Johnny Gandhar.
Oh,
Not enough, yeah. Not enough people have seen Johnny
Ek Hasina Thi, Johnny Gaddar, both
amazing
films that need to be seen by more people, for sure. So if this is about recommendations also, if we just want to recommend some films, I would definitely say that watch the entire filmography of Shyam Benegal, watch the entire filmography of Syed Akhtar Mirza, of Sai Paranjapi, of Govind Nilani for sure, who is my favorite filmmaker, one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. Govind Nilani's films have had such an impact on me, but definitely one of the best from that era. And my favorite from that era. Of course, if people haven't seen Hrishikesh Mukherjee films. Because these films were films...
I feel a lot of young people haven't seen
100%, yes. A lot of young people haven't seen Hrishikesh Mukherjee.
Yeah.
And
it needs to be watched again.
और वही मतलब हुआ क्या ना कि because these films, the Hrishikesh Mukherjee films, Basu Chatterjee films, Sai Paranjapi films, these films were, they were films that were not in the parallel cinema zone either, and they were not from this, from the mainstream films either, but they had like mainstream stars, so many of these films had Amitabh Bachchan in them, either in a cameo or in a main part. Hrishikesh Mukherjee cast Amitabh Bachchan in so many films. But these films never really, except for Anand maybe.
Anand, of course, yes.
Never really got
realized. Anand has a particular kind of philosophy that people keep finding extremely relevant. So it gets reinvented with every generation that watches it. But the other films also really, really need to be watched.
Of course, Money Call. We forgot Money Call. But Money Call
is one of the most underrated. Definitely. Not enough people have seen Duvidha, I feel like.
Duvidha also, and Of course, Ashad Ka Ek Din.
Ashad Ka Ek Din, yes. Which I wonder if there's a print available for Ashad Ka Ek Din.
Of course. Ashad Ka Ek Din is available on Mubi.
Oh, okay. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay.
Ashad Ka Ek Din is available in Mubi.
Yeah.
Then Mrinal Sen made some Hindi films which were pretty good.
Ek Din Achanak.
Ek Din Achanak.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And of course, Shekhar Kapoor, I mean, Bandit Queen, for all of its problems in terms of how it was made, but it's such an amazing film. I mean, and it is also such an important film, just with respect to the kind of people that it introduced to Hindi cinema. Matlab Saurabh Shukla, Manoj Bajpayee,
Right.
Seema Biswas was already, popular, but I mean, that film really gave her another kind of stage. And so many other actors, I mean, of course, then Masoom, not underrated, but again, a beautiful film.
Beautiful
Then
film.
the films by Gulzar, Machis,
Yeah.
and of course, Ijazat.
Yeah.
Then
Basera is also by Gulzar, right?
Yeah.
Not enough people have seen Basera. Angur, yes. Angur, but also the original the Bengali original for Angur, Bhranti Vilash, which is amazing. It's so funny that Angur is the double of another film, and it's a film about doubles. Like, I've just realized the irony of that. It's just so much doubling happening with that film.
Any thoughts on Cargo?
Cargo, I also like Cargo a lot.
As a concept, I think it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And not just as a concept. I mean, the way that it was, they made that film.
Yeah.
Truly something.
Yeah.
I don't know how that whole idea even got structured. It's such a novel idea.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like execution-wise, considering the fact that they had such a small budget for that film, and a sci-fi film to be made in that kind of budget is unbelievable. And if you actually read a little bit about the making of that film and about how the sets were constructed and all that, you see some of the BTS of the making. Yeah. It's phenomenal, yaar. I mean, it really shows if you really have perseverance and you want to really want to make a film, you can. That's what I feel about Love Sides of Zokha also, yaar. Matlab, to make a film like that.
I was going to name the other film that I think is really underrated, Oye Lucky Oye.
Yeah. I mean, all the Diwakar Banerjee films for that.
All the Diwakar Banerjee films, but this one in particular, I really enjoyed that film.
100%.
I really enjoyed that film. And
such a fantastically made, from a technical point of view and
exactly
visually such an original film in terms of it has. Remember that one shot in the car with Neetu Chandra?
Yes.
I haven't seen a shot like that in any other film.
Yeah.
In any part of the world.
Yeah. True.
Such an original shot. Especially like if we talk about like a car shot.
Definitely.
One, like another film that just coming to my mind because you mentioned Diwakar Banerjee's Titli, because I think Diwakar Banerjee co-wrote the film.
Right.
But yeah, I mean Kanu Behl.
Which I haven't seen.
Yeah, you haven't seen Titli, but you really should.
Okay.
I mean, it is again a brilliant. I mean, it is it is like the love child of Diwakar Banerjee and Anurag Kashyap, because they
that's quite some.
Have you seen Titli?
Great.
So Titli takes the family dynamic aspect of it from Diwakar Banerjee, like if we see it that way, and then the just the desire to explore the roots of violence from Anurag Kashyap and brings the two things together, and
Okay.
It's really fascinating and which is why I'm really looking forward to Kanu's next film, which is going to be second feature film technically, Agra, which got selected Kaun.
Okay.
And who's the main actor in the film? Not the main actor, but like the father character, which is also important apparently.
Okay.
Rahul Roy. Rahul Roy, Ashiki.
Okay, that is so.
He's making like a comeback of sorts with this film.
Right.
He's just going for the whole. He's kind of doing what Ronit Roy did, in a way. And Ronit Roy also was a big 90s star. He was this 90s heartthrob.
Right.
Yeah, and
what he did,
Ronit Roy,
etc. You're saying.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming, and this is also something I find very interesting, how
also
these alternate and how these alternate filmmakers think about their casting sometimes, and they take these TV actors or actors who are known for a completely different kind of
impact on the audience and the different school of acting,
and they give them this very completely different kind of part. I feel like casting is such an important factor
in these
films, because casting somebody like Ronit Roy would help the film reach a certain type of audience.
That is true.
You know, क्योंकि Ronit Roy known नाम है, लोगों ने उसको क्योंकि सास बहू की बहुती में देखा है और बदमाश में देखा है. And so people would at least know, man, okay, so this film has Ronit Roy. So एक recall value होगी. So it would be better than
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
And
In
then
terms of
able to extract
yes.
the, like, you know, good acting from him,
Yeah.
which he's capable of, but just nobody even tried.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
पर फिर वो बेचारा टाइपकास्ट ही हो गया हर फिल्म में abuse का.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
My God. So, but yes.
But yeah.
To wrap this up.
Oh, मेरे को अभी याद आया कि मैं मणिकाल के अलावा
Wrapping it up.
बस मैं एक just one more director that I want to mention.
Oh. Still, yeah. I used to think that everybody has watched it, but apparently not.
Yeah, Death in the Gunge for sure.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You were telling me about Maya Darpan.
Yeah, basically, मतलब मणिकाल के अलावा one more director from the same era, from the same school of filmmaking, similar school of filmmaking, like very surrealist films with a non-traditional structure,
Right.
narrative structure, is Kumar Sharni.
Right.
Again, like incredible, beautiful films that people just need to watch and study.
Yeah.
Again and again. Sudhir Mishra we missed. You know, made such beautiful films that, you know, kind of got lost in time.
Yeah.
But Dharavi and इस रात की सुबह नहीं, हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी.
Yeah.
I mean, I really loved the earlier works of Sudhir Mishra. I think that he was such an incredible original voice.
So different from what was being made at the time.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess.
So yes, we have, after this
that was
extremely long list of films that we have spoken about, some of which are underrated, some of which are
और अभी भी हमने obviously बहुत सारी मिस कर दी होंगी.
बहुत सारी मिस कर दी होंगी.
ओम दरबदर, you know.
Oh yes.
ऐसी फिल्में मतलब.
Oh yes.
मतलब वही है. The list is endless.
The list is endless.
But we have to stop at some point.
Yeah. Because the battery is running out. Yeah.
So we are ending this way.
We are ending.
Do it once more.
You're doing it.
We're ending it this way.
You are ending it, yeah.